The defiant rage Sylwen had channeled through Rylan's pain helped them cover ground, but it couldn't mend a shattered knee. By late afternoon, they had climbed out of the canyon and reached the base of the Whispering Range, a ridge of jagged, mist-shrouded peaks. Rylan was leaning heavily on a makeshift crutch, his breath coming in shallow, ragged gasps. Sylwen walked beside him, maintaining a low, humming frequency of focused resilience, a calm, steel-like emotion that kept his mind off the agony in his leg. "It should be close," Rylan murmured, pointing toward a massive outcrop of gray stone, half hidden by thick moss and towering fir trees. The archives speak of a stone heart, built into the rock face itself, overlooking the Valley of Sorrows. The Void Cult ship had not returned, but the chilling sense of being watched hung heavy in the damp air. They knew the enemy was still out there, searching for the slightest mistake. Finally, they reached the rock face. It looked like an ordinary, ancient cliff, cold and unyielding. Rylan ran his hand along the mossy surface, searching for a seam or a sign. "It's here," he confirmed, his voice barely a whisper. The Tkar engineers used an atmospheric disruptor field. It makes the entrance look like solid rock to the human eye, but it should shimmer for a Zylian. Sylwen squinted. The stone was solid. She pushed her echidron senses outward, trying to perceive the rock not just with her eyes, but with her feelings. And there it was, a small, circular area of the rock face that radiated a peculiar kind of silence, a sensory dead zone where sound and emotion seemed to curve away. She touched the spot. Her fingers sank into a cool, invisible field. She had found the door. The moment her hand passed through the field, the rock shimmered. The center of the dead zone peeled away, revealing a dark, tunnel-like entrance. But instead of an open doorway, they were met by a smooth, obsidian platform with a single, glowing Zylian rune hovering above it. The rune wasn't a letter, it was an emotional symbol, a spiral of longing coiling around a core of memory. "It's the lock," Rylan said, his face draining of color. "It's not electronic. It's a resonance seal. The safe house isn't meant for human protection, it's meant to protect the Aethelum. It will only open for the living memory of a dying race, validated by the soul of a Zylian echidron." The hovering rune began to pulse, and a sound filled the air, a hollow, synthesized voice that spoke in perfect, melodic Zylian. Sylwen didn't understand the words, but the feeling of the language flowed through her. "I am the guardian of the silent heart. To enter, you must solve the riddle of the three echoes." The voice paused, and the first riddle came. "I am the weight of 1,000,000,000 tears, yet I leave no trace of water. I am carried in the bone, yet I have no mass. I am the signal they seek. What am I?" Rylan didn't hesitate. "The Aethelum," he said, speaking the Tkar name of the soul essence. The obsidian platform glowed green for a moment, absorbing the sound. The first section of the hovering rune stabilized. "Correct," the voice replied. The second riddle began, directed toward Sylwen. "I am the color of what is not. I am the absence of feeling. I am the greatest shield against those who feed on sorrow. To wield me is to lie to the universe. What am I?" Sylwen felt the answer resonate deep in her gut. She focused her mind, channeling the pure, crushing lack of emotion she had used to fool the drone. "The zero," she stated, using the simple human terms she and her grandmother had given the power of emotional silence. The platform glowed blue. The second part of the rune stabilized. The third riddle was different. The voice seemed to shift, becoming a complex chorus of many voices, the collective soul of the Tkar, and it addressed both of them, its tone laced with profound, ancient loneliness. "We are the echo of yesterday, and you are the channel of tomorrow. The key is neither memory nor silence, but communion. To open the silent heart, the last of the Tkar must freely merge his sorrow with the Zylian's hope, creating a resonance of unbroken will. Show me the truth of your bond." Rylan's face was pale. "It wants us to combine the signals. The Aethelum is pure, refined sorrow. Your power, Sylwen, is pure, unrefined hope. Mixing them is dangerous. If the sorrow overpowers the hope, the seal will consume us both." We don't have a choice, Sylwen whispered, looking back at the dense forest, expecting the void cult ship to break through the trees at any moment. If we can combine them, we're not just two individuals anymore. We're a force. She reached out and gently placed her hand on Rylan's chest, right where her touch had channeled rage earlier. Rylan, she said, her voice firm. Don't fight the grief. Let it out. Don't hide the memory. I will take it, and I will mix it with the purest feeling of home I know, the love my grandmother showed me. Rylan hesitated for a moment, then closed his eyes and nodded. He let go of his resistance. The Aethelum poured out of him. It wasn't just a wave of emotion, it was an overwhelming torrent of sensation, images of crystalline cities crumbling into dust, the silent screams of a billion souls, the cold finality of a world turning dark. It was the crushing weight of history, a grief too large for a single mind to hold. Sylwen took it all in. She felt the ancient sorrow, the deep despair, the raw loss. It threatened to crush her into submission, to make her weep for a world she had never known. But she found her anchor, the memory of her grandmother, the scent of old books, the quiet, safe feeling of Willow Creek. She took Rylan's infinite sorrow and wrapped it, not in an equal measure of joy, but in a fierce, protective conviction. The feeling that this was the reason for all the pain. The feeling that they would not fail. She channeled the new, fused signal, a powerful, unwavering note of defiant resilience. It was sorrow that refused to break, and hope that was born from absolute loss. The resulting frequency was unique. It wasn't a beacon of hope or a wave of despair, it was a complex harmony of profound, unbreakable will. The obsidian platform roared to life. The final piece of the rune snapped into place, glowing with a steady, brilliant white light. The invisible door to the silent heart swung open, revealing a ramp leading down into the cool darkness of the mountain. Rylan stumbled, completely drained. Sylwen, though exhausted, felt a strange sense of completeness. Her power had not just shielded him, it had integrated with his. She was now part guardian of the Aethelum. We did it, Rylan whispered, leaning on her for support. We're in the silent heart. They can't follow us here. As they began their slow, careful descent into the ancient Zylian safe house, Sylwen looked back at the forest. She could still feel the void cult's presence, not with their drone, but with their impatience. They had been challenged. They would not give up. But now, she and Rylan were armed with more than hope. They had communion, and they had sanctuary. The next phase of their battle would be fought in the shadows. The ramp descended sharply, leading them into a vast, carved cavern deep within the mountain's heart. The air was cool and dry, smelling faintly of ancient minerals and something akin to ozone. The space was enormous, yet utterly silent. Sylwen's senses registered nothing but the soft, metallic hum of alien technology. Her echidron power, which usually picked up the faint emotional residue of even empty rooms, found only a clean, absolute zero. This place is perfect, Rylan whispered, leaning heavily against a carved pillar. The Zylians lined these walls with Ethereum-dampening stone. Nothing gets in, and nothing gets out. For the first time, I am truly silent. The weight of the Aethelum, the constant, immense sorrow, seemed to have muted slightly, allowing Rylan a brief, precious moment of normal exhaustion, not cosmic grief. The cavern was circular, with three major features. To the left was a medical bay with glowing, unused instruments. To the right, a small, crystalline pool that filtered and purified the mountain water. And directly in the center stood a pedestal of polished dark stone, upon which rested a single, shimmering, multifaceted object. It was about the size of a pigeon's egg, and it pulsed with an internal, cool light. It wasn't the Aethelum Rylan carried, this was an artifact of immense power. What is that? Sylwen breathed, drawn forward by the beautiful, silent light. The Tkar transducer, Rylan said, hobbling toward the pedestal. I only knew it existed in legends. It was the device the elders used to crystallize the Aethelum, the memory of our race, and bind it to my DNA. But it can also reverse the process. Rylan reached the pedestal and placed his hand on the cool stone beside the transducer. As he did, the air around them flickered, and a faint, holographic image shimmered into existence. It was a projection of an old Tkar woman, her eyes glowing with the same profound sorrow Rylan carried. Rylan, son of the last, the projection's voice was soft, resonating directly in their minds. If you are here, the Aethelum lives. But time is short. We gave you memory, but we did not give you peace. The projection pointed a long, shimmering finger at the transducer. The Void Cult has found the path to the Great Convergence, a nexus of the universe where all emotional energy flows. Their goal is not just to harvest our essence, but to use the combined despair of all dying races to create a psychic black hole at the convergence, extinguishing all light and hope in the galaxy. Sylwen felt a cold dread sink into her stomach. This wasn't just about survival, it was about the universe's survival. The transducer is the key, the projection continued. It can be modified. It cannot bring us back, but it can release the Aethelum, our collective memory, into the Great Convergence. It will not be a weapon, but a barrier. An infinite wave of pure, crystalline memory and spiritual love, flooding the convergence and preventing the Void Cult from establishing their black hole of despair. Rylan stared at the transducer, his face etched with agonizing realization. But if I release the Aethelum, I will lose everything. The last vestige of my people will be scattered. No, Sylwen said quickly, stepping forward and taking Rylan's hand. Her Echidron power focused, channeling the merged Unbroken Will. The memory won't be lost. It will become the foundation of the light. Your people's legacy will be the shield that saves all other life. The projection smiled, a look of profound relief washing over her holographic features. The Zylian Echidron speaks the truth, son. You cannot fight the Void Cult with weapons, but you can defeat their despair with eternal memory. You must take the transducer, travel to the convergence, and release your people's soul. Suddenly, the projection flickered violently. The air in the cavern crackled. Be warned, the voice sharpened, now laced with alarm. The Void Cult has a tracker that is tied directly to the transient signature of the transducer. They know you have activated the archive. Their highest-ranking harvester is already in the valley. They will follow the transducer's signature. You cannot escape. The projection dissolved, leaving only the pulsing light of the artifact and a terrifying sense of urgency. Harvester, Rylan whispered, his eyes widening in pure horror. A harvester is a Void Cult leader, enhanced with their dampening technology. They can crush an Echidron's will and tear the Aethelum from me physically. A new sound began to filter through the thick, dampening stone of the safe house, not the hum of a ship, but a psychic pressure. It was a wave of pure, aggressive nothingness pushing against the walls, testing the limits of the Ethereum stone. Sylwen felt her Echidron sense recoil from it. It was the ultimate absence of life, the void personified. The harvester was here, and it was closing in on the entrance. We have to move, Sylwen urged, grabbing the transducer from the pedestal. The moment it touched her skin, she felt its signature pulse, a bright, powerful beacon of light and memory in the void. The harvester is tracking this now. The longer we stay, the more pressure it puts on these walls. Rylan grimaced, leaning on his crutch. The only way out is back through the entrance. I can barely walk, Sylwen. We won't make it. Sylwen looked at the crystalline pool, then at Rylan, then back at the dark, silent tunnels. Her eyes focused, driven by the unbroken will they had forged. The harvester was a master of psychic warfare, but it was designed to target fear and despair. Maybe we don't need to run, Sylwen said, a dangerous flicker of light in her eyes. You said the harvester is enhanced with dampening technology. It's expecting despair. Let's give it the one thing it can't process. She took the transducer in one hand and grabbed Rylan's good arm with the other, pulling him toward the shadows of a side tunnel. We're going to use the transducer as a psychic amplifier, Rylan. We're going to channel the unbroken will through the whole mountain. We're going to hit the harvester with a force of emotion so focused, so alive, it will break its logic. The battle for the fate of the Tkar, and the galaxy, was about to become a desperate, close-quarters psychic fight in the darkness. The story is now fully set for the climax. The stakes are galactic, the power is defined, and the immediate threat, the Harvester, is at the door. The psychic pressure assaulting the safe house intensified, turning the air inside the tunnel cold and heavy. Sylwen and Rylan scrambled deeper into the dark, relying on the faint, ethereal glow of the Tkar transducer in Sylwen's hand. The object was now pulsing violently, a desperate heart beating against a crushing force. "He's using a full-spectrum dampener field," Rylan hissed, leaning on Sylwen as they struggled through the uneven tunnel. "It's designed to flatten all emotional output. If he gets close enough, it won't just suppress your power, it'll crush your mind." Sylwen felt the field not as pain, but as an appalling emptiness. It was the antithesis of her being, and it was horrifying. But she fought it by focusing on the transducer. Its glow was the memory of a dying race, the emotion it amplified was her unbroken will. They rounded a bend in the tunnel and stopped dead. Standing 50 feet away, illuminated by the cold light of the transducer, was the Harvester. He was tall, clad in a sleek, matte black armor that seemed to absorb all light and sound. His face, visible beneath a raised helmet, was human, but his eyes were pure, focused nullity, the eyes of someone who had perfected the art of feeling nothing. He wasn't running, he was simply walking toward them, the air around him shimmering with the psychic dampener field. "The search is over, little Zylian," the Harvester's voice echoed, cold and synthetic, resonating not in the air but directly in Sylwen's mind. "You cannot save the echo of a failed race. Surrender the Aethelum and the transducer. The Void Cult offers you quick extinction, rather than prolonged despair." The dampener field hit them fully. Sylwen gasped as the pressure clamped down, trying to squeeze all sensation, all thought, out of her mind. Her feet went numb, and her focus instantly scattered. Rylan's cosmic sorrow surged, but the dampener instantly flattened it, turning his grief into a hollow, defeated whisper. "The sorrow, it's gone," Rylan choked out, his eyes wide with panic. "He's silencing my people." Sylwen knew this was the Harvester's greatest weapon, reducing their resistance to zero. She couldn't fight with hope because hope required feeling, and the field was extinguishing all feeling. She had to rely on the only thing the Harvester didn't understand, connection. "Rylan, touch the transducer," Sylwen commanded, pushing the artifact into his hand. "Don't fight the silence. Find the memory in the Aethelum, the history of your people, and push it into the transducer." Rylan, despite the psychic oppression, forced his fingers onto the cool, multifaceted surface. Sylwen closed her eyes, forcing herself to accept the emptiness of the dampener field. She didn't try to generate emotion, she reached out to Rylan's silent, terrified soul and the pulsing memory flowing into the transducer. She began to channel. She took the vast, crystallized Car memory and overlaid it with her purest, most fundamental emotion, Alera's unconditional love, the only feeling the Harvester couldn't reach because it was based on human, non-Zylian, non-Tkar experience. Sylwen slammed the two energies together, ancient alien memory powered by human love. The resulting wave was not an emotion the Harvester was tuned to block. It wasn't despair, anger, or fear. It was resonance. A pure, powerful ping of sentience, the raw, undeniable reality of two linked souls, blasted outward from the transducer. The Harvester stopped dead. His dark armor momentarily shimmered, and a high-pitched, almost silent scream of distortion echoed in Sylwen's mind. The dampener field fractured. "Impossible," the Harvester snarled, staggering back a step. "The signal, it is not on the known emotional spectrum." The Harvester recovered instantly and raised an armored gauntlet, which began to hum with blue light. "Irrelevant. I will simply harvest the vessel physically." He charged toward them, a blur of black armor. "Now, Rylan," Sylwen yelled. "Show him the memory. Let your people fight." Rylan plunged his entire consciousness into the transducer. The artifact exploded with light, and the entire tunnel filled with a dizzying, three-dimensional hologram of memory, a blizzard of Tkar history, moments of supreme artistry, complex mathematical proofs, ancient songs, and countless acts of kindness. It was not an attack, it was simply existence. The harvester slammed into the wave of memory. He didn't physically stop, but his psychic field failed. His emotionless mind was suddenly bombarded with billions of moments of pure, unadulterated life. The sheer volume of memory, the spiritual density of a complete civilization, overwhelmed his dampening technology. The harvester staggered backward, clutching his head, his face contorted in a look of profound confusion and psychic agony. He was built to extinguish existence. He could not process the blinding reality of this eternal memory. Too much life, the harvester roared, his voice breaking from synthetic to raw, horrified human. Rylan pulled back from the transducer, drained but victorious. The harvester, circuits overloaded and mind reeling from the psychic memory blast, staggered again, tripped on the uneven stone, and fell into the crystalline water pool. The water, filtered and purified by the Tkar system, was a perfect conduit. The harvester's armor instantly short-circuited. With a flash of sparking wires and a final, gurgling sound of defeated nullity, the Void Cult's most powerful agent was neutralized. Sylwen and Rylan looked at the dark, still water, then at each other. They had won the battle, but not the war. The harvester's signal is gone, Sylwen whispered, clutching the transducer. But the Void Cult fleet is still coming. We have to go. Rylan, using his makeshift crutch, hobbled toward a small, metallic panel on the tunnel wall. He activated it, and a section of the rock wall slid open, revealing a narrow service chute leading steeply upward. This chute leads to a high ridge overlooking the valley, Rylan explained. We'll use the transducer as a navigation beacon. I can calculate the coordinates to the Great Convergence from there. He gripped Sylwen's shoulder, his eyes no longer clouded by sorrow, but clear with determined purpose. You channeled my people's soul, Sylwen. You have given them meaning again. Now, let's give them their final, glorious mission. Together, the half-alien girl who mastered the power of empathy, and the boy who was the living memory of a dead race, climbed into the chute. They had the weapon, the Tkar transducer, and the will to use the Aethelum as a shield of light against the coming tide of universal despair. The true journey, the one that would decide the fate of the stars, was only just beginning.
Like and subscribe.